Hi, everyone. I'm Narayan, Chief Data Officer, Payments Business, JPMorgan Chase. I know this is a post-lunch session, so we're going to try and keep it as interactive as possible. Last year, we were here at Databricks AI Summit, where we presented our modern data platform. And there were quite a few follow-up questions to our presentation. And one of the key questions was, how did we achieve modernization in such a highly regulated industry? Also, last year, we won the Disruptor Award, the Databricks Disruptor Award. And I took my whole data engineering team to the restaurant to celebrate. Do you know what did they do? They joined all the tables. So today we're going to talk about democratizing intelligence in a regulated industry. We're going to talk about what is it, how did we at JPMorgan achieve it. So first, we're going to take you through our journey of transformation, where we focus on breaking silos, building trust, and also creating value at every step through collaboration and federation. We're going to focus on how we provide first-class client service to our clients. And we're going to talk about our journey, the three key drivers of our transformation journey focused on innovation, simplification, democratization at scale with a relentless focus on governance, security, and quality. Throughout the presentation, we're going to talk about some of the foundational building blocks. First, I'm going to take you through what is the scale of our business, then go through some foundational building blocks of democratizing data. What does it mean? Then we're going to get into a little bit about the problem statement that we are looking to solve, solution, and finally, we'll get into the architecture. So again, we're going to keep it interactive. I wanted to start off with taking a quick pulse across the room. How many of you here have worked with payments? That's good representation. Let me be specific. How many of you have worked with payments today? All right. I guess some of you know the answer. The answer is, I see, you definitely know the answer. So the answer is, most likely everyone in this room has worked with payments today. If you do a transaction that moves money, at the end of the day, it is a payment transaction. Imagine the amount of data that gets generated through every payment transaction across the world. At JPMorgan, we process $10 trillion in payments every day. Generates a lot of data. It is the place to be for data scientists, data engineers, and data geeks like me. JPMorgan payments business actually, so the payments business at JPMorgan provides a range of different services to our clients, ranging from payment processing to treasury management services. Some of the key business areas we have is the merchant services for businesses to accept credit and debit card payments, our treasury services for cash management, payment processing, and liquidity solutions with cross-border payments across 120 or 160 plus countries, 120 plus currencies. Our trade finance and working capital business, our digital enablement business, our embedded financial solutions, our API developer portal. Our mission at Data within JPMorgan Payments. Build JPMorgan Payments data intelligence to drive smarter, faster, safer payment services for all our clients. Technology, AI, data intelligence underpin the foundation of payments business at JPMorgan. You can learn more at www.jpmorgan.com/payments. Now you have an idea of the scale we are dealing with. $10 trillion a day, 120 plus currencies, 160 plus countries. Let's talk about some of the foundational building blocks of data democratization. These are non-negotiable. When we started our transformation journey a few years ago, we made sure that we set some guardrails for our organization as we built our data platforms and modernize and transform the data landscape at JPMorgan Payments. The first one being security and safety. Security is the topmost priority to safeguard our clients' information. Security in terms of protecting the data, security in terms of access to data, security in terms of just making sure that we have the right level access controls in place. When we started our journey, and some of the protection around encryption at rest and encryption at motion, when we started our journey, encryption solutions were not that advanced. They were not that performant. But over a period of time, we've seen technology has advanced and they've become performant. And with the evolution of AI, we have more support in terms of tokenization, anonymization, and masking. The next is governance. Governance is more focused on making sure every byte of data that we manage is managed with purpose. It focuses on making sure that we have proper, responsible use of data in place. We had to make sure we understood every byte of data that was being processed through our platform. And we came up with a governance framework that managed a purpose of that data or the right responsible use of the data. Quality. Quality in terms of completeness, accuracy, and timeliness of data. How many of you in the audience have heard the term GIGO or GIGO? Yeah, it's become more important as we feed more data into AI. Garbage in, garbage out. We have to ensure quality of data. We've built automated rails to actually make sure that we manage quality through controls across the entire end-to-end flow of our data. Now, the top part is about managing data. The bottom section is going to be about our consumers. Democratizing data without understanding the consumer persona is incomplete. We needed to make sure our data is well explained, well defined, well described. We needed to make sure that it is accessible for all our consumers to understand the data that is being processed through our system. And finally, focus on value generation. As I mentioned, every piece of information that was being managed within the system needed to have a purpose. And as we built our transformation journey, or as we went through our transformation journey, we actually built our platform based on value, that value of use cases and products that we were building and delivering. And most importantly, trust. There's a saying, trust is built in drops and lost in buckets. In the data world, trust is built in bits and lost in petabytes. So it is very important that we make sure that the platform that we built has strong guardrails to really promote trust in the platform. As we looked at the non-negotiables, now we start to talk about data democratization. At a very high level, what is it? It's two pieces: data, access to data to the consumers. And We talked about the non-negotiables from a foundational perspective, about how we need to kind of focus on providing the right data, high quality, secure access to data, and making sure that the data is well described. On the right-hand side, we needed to understand our consumers from a standpoint of making sure that we have harmonized our data in the platform in a standard language that the consumers can understand through a model. We also needed to make sure that we have the right entitlements management scheme and framework in place so we can manage things like RBAC, ABAC, and so on, which is role-based access controls and attribute-based access controls. And we also needed to make sure that our consumers had an area where they could use the data in a secure way to innovate and play with it. So we created our Lakehouse playground. We're going to talk about Lakehouse a little bit more. So again, a quick pulse check. How many of you in the audience know what a lakehouse is? All right, you're at the right conference. Underpinning the whole framework or the whole data democratization model with very strong technical data quality control in place that focused on completeness, accuracy, and timely delivery of data. Now that we've understood what the scope that we are dealing with, we've understood some of the foundational building blocks of democratization. Let's talk a little bit more about the problem statement. Pulse check. How many of you in the audience have heard the FOMO effect of data? Wow, nobody. FOMO, fear of missing out. All right, let's try again. How many of you have heard data is the new oil? All right, great. How many of you have heard data is the king? Some of you. That used to be a term, I would say, a decade ago. So in our legacy platforms, you can see data is locked up in silos on the left-hand side in the source systems. And every time we needed data, we built bespoke pipes to source that data into a data warehouse. And then over a period of time, many of these data warehouses cropped up. Data locked up. King, i.e. data locked up, rendering data powerless. Our data being clogged in the pipes, i.e. oil clogged in pipes, and not being able to refine it to reach its potential value. And finally, the FOMO effect of data. Most of these data warehouses were closed systems where change was very expensive, and every time you needed to kind of build insights, it was even more expensive. There was no sharing, so we had many metric stores across our data landscape. We had many data stores, and of course, we had too many pipes feeding these data stores. Now that you've understood the problem, what is the solution? It's the best solution that we've heard. Build a data lake. We love that, right? I think it is probably not the right answer, or it is not the right answer. It is part of the answer, right? We had to think about our journey very differently. Of course, we wanted to build a data lake, but more importantly, we wanted to think about our consumers. So we actually anchored our journey on our consumers. The days of passive consumption are long gone. Data consumers are an active participant in the data ecosystem. They're shaping the data product. They're shaping new services. They're building new offerings that are coming out of the data ecosystem. Now the whole power shift in the consumption space is they feel a sense of ownership and belonging within the overall ecosystem. So we had to build a platform that was consumer focused. Our approach was to build a single open platform that supports a variety of capabilities for multi-persona user base. So the first thing we did was we actually split all our capabilities, or we split up all our platform focused on consumer-specific capabilities. If you look at the picture from the left to the right, the box in the middle is a multiplayer zone or a multi-persona, multiplayer platform. We built an ingest framework for data engineers to build their data flows. We built a transform framework for data engineers to be able to transform their data. We built an orchestration framework for engineers to easily federate and build their data flow orchestration. On the right side, we built an API and SQL-based consumption framework for our developers and our analysts to use. And we built an overall ML operations framework for our data scientists. We even built out-of-the-box telemetry and observability for our data SRE teams. That is easier said than done. As we were going through this journey, we had to also anchor on some of the key drivers. Our key drivers, as we were going through the journey, the first one is innovation. I'm sure everyone has heard, and this is a very common term that gets used in the tech industry, you build it and they'll come. That no longer exists. Within the payments business, the payments business has evolved in the past decade. It used to be a very batch-based 24/5 business. Today, the payments business is 24/7, real time, at milliseconds payment processing. So we could no longer just build a data lake that was batch-based. We had to innovate. When we started our journey, we actually set out to build a streaming analytics platform that will adapt to the ever-evolving needs of the payments business. We also needed to make it a multiplayer, multi-consumer framework or multiplayer, multi-consumer platform so that many different personas could contribute and build the platform in a federated model. Second, democratization. And you're going to keep hearing this word, democratization, because we are at this session to talk about democratization. What is democratization? I gave you the building blocks, but if I had to say it in plain English, one line, it is making everyday AI possible for everyone in the organization, regardless of their role. What does it take? It takes secure access to data that is high quality, reliable, and trustworthy. It takes making required tooling available to the consumers so that they can work with the data. And finally, we have to make it scalable, fault-tolerant, testable, and reliable. The third driver, simplification. Now, as we were going through our journey, we were innovating really fast. We were creating a streaming analytics platform. We were moving to the public cloud. What happens when you start to move to a public cloud-based solution? You have thousands of data services. So every data service has a particular niche that they're trying to support. And Every time you use a data service, you make a copy of data. What happens when you make a copy of data? Yeah, it's a slippery slope. Your management cost goes up. You're going back into the legacy world where the multiple data warehouses are cropping up. So what did we do? We started to kind of think about how do we actually simplify our consumption layer. So we avoid multiple hops, we keep the data in one place, and be able to provide the required tooling and access to data in the lake to our consumers. We are at the Databricks conference, so we built the lake house on Databricks, where we were able to allow secure access to data that was collected in our lake to be able to support a multi-persona user base where we're looking at, you want to do internal analytics, you want to do Databricks, you want to do data sciences, you want to do plain old SQL reporting, all of it possible through a single interface consumption layer. Of course, all of this fortified by strong governance around security and compliance at a fine-grained entitlements level. One of the things that I wanted to also touch upon is we process across 160 different countries. We had to make sure that we complied with every local law on how we manage the data aligned to their regulations. So we had to come up with various different schemes or various different patterns on how we segregate data, physical, local, how do we give access to data, and so on. So we've talked about the foundation. We actually started with the scope. We've talked about the foundation. We've talked about the building blocks. We went through the problem statement and the solution. Here is a view of our architecture. What did we finally build? Walking through this, so our platform, everything is an offering, a component, or a product. Walking through this architecture from left to right, there are three main offering product component groups. On the left-hand side is about ingestion and management of data. On the top right is our lakehouse, and at the bottom is our API consumption layer. Our ingestion framework is our engineering-centric product that empowers data engineers to create data flows and manage their data on the platform. It is fully cloud native. It is fault tolerant, testable, observable, and manages quality through reconciliation schemes and things like that. It's built on streaming first principles using technologies like Kafka, Delta tables, DLT, Databricks SQL, DynamoDB, OpenSearch, Kubernetes, Datadog for monitoring and observability. Our second group of products is the Lakehouse, which is the number 4 on the right-hand side. Lakehouse is our data science-centric product designed to provide self-service access to data and tooling for all our data scientists and analysts to create data science products, BI analytics, and plain old simple SQL reporting. Lakehouse was the first of its kind at JPMorgan, built on Databricks, again, Unity Catalog, Databricks SQL, and MLflow. It embodies our vision of true innovation at scale by democratizing data and tool while reducing time to market. And our third product group is our API GraphQL-based consumption layer, which is our developer-centric product built for developers to self-serve data through a GraphQL API. This actually brings our data mesh to life, where developers are able to connect to API and get access to, in a secure way, get access to data and intelligence that is on our platform. Finally, we wanted to kind of talk about a little bit more about the lakehouse here. We're going to talk about how a data scientist and a data engineer and multiple personas work within our platform. Data scientists, so at the bottom, data scientists starts creating their platform or their product on a workspace that we've created within Databricks. The data scientists can innovate with the data, with secure access to data, and having access to the tooling on Databricks, such as MLflow and so on. Most of the work that the data scientist does is in an opinionated project skeleton that we have created using asset bundles, Databricks asset bundles. Once the data scientist has actually created their product, they hand it off to data engineers. Now, there's a distinction here. A data scientist actually creates the product and the model, while the data engineer actually productionizes that model and product. It's an important distinction because a data engineer then focuses on the scalability and the testability and fault tolerance of that product. The data engineer takes the product through the SDLC lifecycle, starting from dev into production. At every point, the data scientist also has access to some of the consumption tools on the workspace. And we also have some of the data sharing products built on the production side. We're quite excited to have Delta sharing, which is a recent addition to our lakehouse. With that, I wanted to also highlight to all of you, for us at JPMorgan, democratization of data means inclusion. It's not just a feature, it's a fundamental principle that is embedded in our platform. Thank you. I'm going to have 10 minutes of Q&A.